She swept the room for cameras and found nothing. Yet the skin-crawling sensation of being watched refuses to fade. On the surface, everything in the Angelini estate is pristine, curated to look like a sanctuary. Underneath that perfect veneer is a danger she can't quite see yet, but she knows a test there. By morning, she forces the paranoia aside. A new day requires a clear head. She gets to work mapping out the local parks in Lyon, looking for a safe, neutral space to get the boy out of the house. Getting Mikey moving is another story. He lies flat on his back, staring blankly at the ceiling and flatly refusing to get up. Davina tries a different angle, offering a trip to the park as a bribe. He digs his heels in, rejecting the food and the outing before she can even finish the thought. Curiosity gets the better of him. He sits up, testing her. When she suggests the local playground or the zoo, Mikey immediately dismisses them as too small and too smelly. Instead, he demands place Belliker, even though it tests much further into the city center. Clutching his plush duck, his mood shifts as he describes the city square. It is the one place where his father actually lets his guard down. The mental image of the cold, imposing Mr. Angelini feeding ducks is almost impossible to picture. The terms of their truce settled, the morning routine finally gets underway. Out in the open air, the heavy atmosphere of the mansion briefly lifts. Mikey takes his task seriously, carefully distributing treats to the gathering flock. Watching him, Davina realizes how deeply the boy is feeling his father's sudden absence. The last crumbs hit the water, ending their small moment of peace. Before the ducks can even finish cleaning up the crumbs, Mikey is already planning his next move. It is nearly lunchtime, but Davina finds herself looking for an excuse to spoil him just a little. He plays his best card, invoking his father's routine to seal the deal. Works, she gives in with a warning to keep it to a single scoop. But getting the treat is only half the battle. Mikey has very specific standards. He insists on the exact shop in the old quarter where he always goes with his father, holding tight to the familiar pattern. Davina can hardly say no to that. The quiet of the park quickly fades as they dive into the crowded tourist district. At the counter, she does her best to order his favorite flavor. The vendoress blank stare suggests her accent needs some work. For a moment, Mikey is just a normal 4-year-old, watching his prize slide across the counter. Then in a heartbeat, he bolts. She turns just in time to see his small frame vanishing into the thick crowd. She shouts his name, throwing herself into the sea of tourists. Behind them, the ice cream lies melting on the pavement. Miles away, the silence in the back of the sedan is broken by the buzz of a phone. Adam glances in the rearview mirror, checking his boss's reaction before naming the caller. Mr. Angelini's irritation is immediate. The family business never actually stays behind. Some calls cannot be ignored, no matter how much he wants to shut out the world. He doesn't hesitate. The tension in his jaw says everything before he even gives the order to connect. The screen flickers to life, revealing Gabriel, a man whose position in the family hierarchy is defined by compliance. Mr. Angelini demands progress on their northern expansion, pushing for control over territories where cooperation is rarely voluntary. From a quiet bar miles away, Gabriel receives the warning. A foothold is the goal, not a costly war. But Gabriel is already looking at the larger picture, finding leverage in high-end trade to force their competitors to the table. Every piece of the supply chain is a hook to keep their new partners dependent. It is a cold, calculated strategy, and Mr. Angelini expects nothing less than total dominance. The promise of an empire is offered, but in this family, legacy is a heavy burden. Mr. Angelini reminds him that everything they build is meant to be passed down. The mandate is clear: build it, protect it, and show no weakness. Gabriel raises his glass to the heir of the dynasty. A toast to Mikey, a child who has no idea what is being constructed in his name. The call ends, and the quiet of the bar is broken by a woman in a blood-splattered coat. The true nature of their business is never far from the surface. For Gabriel, violence is just another administrative task to be managed. He wonders what kind of confession they will extract this time. Predictable lies are merely tedious. Back on the crowded streets, the urgency is real and immediate. Mikey is running, desperate to escape, while Davina's voice tries to reach him through the noise. He runs with the desperate, single-minded focus of a child who believes he has no other choice. Chasing a departing bus, his small lungs struggle to keep pace with his panic. He slips through the station, confirming the destination with a passing commuter. He has to get to the train. Scrambling onto a seat, he finally gets out of the open crowd, but he isn't fast enough. Through the glass, a familiar figure moves swiftly along the platform. "I am coming, Papa." He steels himself, convinced his father is the only safety left. Davina locks onto her target. The chase is over, and the retrieval begins. Mikey is on the move, navigating the city's transit system with a single destination in mind. He is small enough to blend into the crowd, but his focus is entirely fixed. Outside, Davina begins her reconstruction of his route, tracking the seconds since he slipped away. She scans the street, weighing every possible escape route the boy could have chosen. She has to assume he took the fastest option available. And Mikey only has one goal in mind. He is heading straight toward the shadow of his father. Passing comment from a stranger breaks through the ambient noise of the street. Davina closes the distance immediately, demanding confirmation. There is no time for polite conversation. The witness points toward the express line. The destination locked. The chase is officially on. This is exactly what her elite academy training prepared her for. Local commuter is just enjoying a quiet morning ride, until Davina decides his bicycle is her best chance to close the gap. She commandeers the ride without a second thought, leaving him behind in utter confusion. Davina returns the puppy to its owner, keeping only what she needs to close the distance. She promises to return the bike later, leaving a very confused commuter in her wake. Heavy midday traffic threatens to derail her calculation, forcing her to weave through a wall of stationary cars. She pushes past the gridlock, executing a high-speed swerve that defies her formal academy training. She launches over obstacles, scattering pigeons and drawing gasps from the sidewalk. With the intercept probability dropping by the second, she pours every ounce of physical strength into the pedals. A few streets away, Mikey's transit bus crawls steadily toward its destination. Unaware of the storm chasing him, the boy sits alone, losing patience with the slow commute. Davina skids to a halt outside the grand entrance of the train station. She abandons the ride and adjusts her tie, catching her breath before the confrontation. 1 minute left. Bus doors hiss open at the curb. Mikey steps toward the exit, ready to make his next move, but his nanny is already waiting. He freezes, his escape plan instantly falling apart. She looks down at him, her voice entirely calm despite the chase. Davina hoists him up by the collar, cutting his escape short with a swift lesson on consequences. The boy slips right out of his jacket, tumbling back onto the pavement. He lashes out with a childish simple, bitter anger. He curls into himself on the concrete, crying as he blames her for keeping him from his father. Davina stands over him, holding the empty jacket as she tries to explain the reality of the streets. But Mikey isn't thinking about himself. He is terrified for his father. Davina points out that Mr. Angelini travels with armed protection. The child screams the truth. To him, the guards are just wolves waiting for another chance. The realization hits her like a physical blow. She tries to offer a rational defense, but the boy cuts her off. Davina knows what it is to carry a loss that no one else understands. She changes her approach. Crouching down to meet his eyes, she makes a silent vow. She will protect him from the world and from his own desperate plans. She stands tall, letting him know she isn't going anywhere. Tiny Air clutches his jacket, his defiance unbroken. They stand locked in a silent standoff, neither of them willing to give an inch. By the time they return to the estate, the sun has long set. A quiet kitchen and the sound of running water do little to ease the lingering friction between them. She makes it clear she is not letting him out of her sight, despite his frustrated promises to stay put. Her boundaries are set. Until Mr. Angelini returns, she is his shadow. Clutching his toy, Mikey demands that his father must still tuck him in when he finally gets home. Davina offers a gentle promise she has no real power to keep, hoping only to quiet his mind. The boy finally asleep, the sheer weight of the day catches up to her. Days of running on adrenaline and sleepless nights leave her completely drained. She knows she needs to stay alert, but her body is refusing to cooperate. She closes her eyes just for a moment. In the deep silence of the hallway, a shadow falls over her sleeping form. Mr. Angelini stands in the dim light, his clothes disheveled and stained, looking down at his vulnerable guard. In the quiet of the night, Mr. Angelini sits at the edge of his son's bed, the violence of his day left just outside the door. Mikey stirs, opening his eyes to find the one person he was willing to run away to find. The boy proudly boasts about almost escaping his guard, completely unaware of the panic he caused. He admits he was only trying to reach his father, convinced he was smart enough to slip past any adult. But Mikey knows too much. He tracks his father's movements through the GPS coordinates Adam inputs ahead of time. He listens to the guards, memorizing details most adults assume a child would ignore. In a world this dangerous, his father can't help but feel a dark pride in the boy's sharpness. Yet even with all his clever planning, the new nanny still caught him. Assured that his father is staying, Mikey finally lets go of his fears and drifts back to sleep. Outside in the cold hallway, Mr. Angelini's warmth vanishes as he looks down at the sleeping guard. Blood has soaked through his discarded shirt, a silent reminder of the violence he just came home from. He observes her lying defenseless on the floor, questioning if she is truly cut out for this house. The undeniable fact remains, his son is safe in his bed because of her. He leans in close, his voice cutting through her exhaustion. Her eyes snap open, the haze of sleep instantly clashing with the sudden proximity of her employer. Without waiting for her to scramble to her feet, he pulls her up by the waist. She tries to steady herself, but her body refuses to cooperate. The world sways beneath her, completely spent after days of running on pure adrenaline. He catches her before she hits the floor, his grip steady and unyielding against her weight. He doesn't offer comfort, only a pragmatic solution to a son who tried to run. She pulls away, but the metallic scent clinging to his skin is impossible to ignore. He doesn't deny it, matching her accusation with a quiet, dangerous deflection. She tries to draw a boundary between the boy and the violence that feeds this house. The atmosphere shifts instantly, his warning sharp enough to cut. Her exhausted mind struggles to keep pace with the threat. Fatigue wins the battle, cutting right through the heavy Mafia tension with a sudden yawn. Mr. Angelini looks down at her, the stern mask slipping just enough to reveal his own deep weariness. Even on the verge of collapse, she can feel the invisible eyes tracking every movement in the estate. She finally drops onto the mattress, her body giving up the fight. From the shadows of the doorway, he notes how quickly she saw through the silence of his home. Instincts are the only thing that will keep her alive here. He slips back into the dark corridor, leaving her with the temporary safety of sleep. When sleep finally comes, it is deep, fueled by pure exhaustion. But there was something else. A quiet, steady warmth that kept the coldness of this estate at bay. For the first time since arriving, her internal alarms didn't go off. By all accounts, she should fear Gabriel Angelini, yet her instincts refuse to treat him as the threat. The reality of this family is far more complicated than the files suggested. Young Mikey is no helpless victim waiting to be rescued, and Gabriel is far from a simple monster. If he truly wants his son safe, dragging him into a hornetess nest of enemies in Lyon makes no sense. The pieces of the puzzle do not fit. She tries to shake off the memory of how close he was. The Academy's strictest rule echoes in her mind. No emotional involvement. It is time to put feelings aside and demand the access she was promised. She prepares herself to face the underboss without any more distractions. A sudden rush of movement cuts her resolve short. Mikey barrels down the stairs, fully geared up for the pool. Sudden shift from high-stakes tension to childhood play leaves her momentarily speechless. She tries to salvage some professional authority, calling after him about breakfast. The boy's father is already there, waiting by the water. Her professional focus falters, the words catching in her throat as she finds herself face to face with him in the morning light. Mr. Angelini offers only a simple explanation, his calm dismissal contrasting sharply with the tension that still lingers between them. The night before, a quiet car sat idling outside the estate, watching in the dark. Inside, Mr. Angelini carried the physical toll of his work, his shirt stained with blood. He knew he was being watched. It was the third time this week the watchers had shown up. They weren't even trying to hide it. He turned back to his board, marking the map where the threats were closing in. His campaign against the rival syndicates was working. Perhaps it was working too well, drawing the violence right to his doorstep. Yet in the quiet of his son's bedroom, he put the violence aside, promising Mikey a tomorrow free of it. A promise to keep him safe. Tomorrow would be a day to lay low, hidden from the storm. The next morning, Davina struggles to understand the logic of declaring a pool day when they already live next to one. Mikey doesn't care about logic, launching himself into the air. He lands with a spectacular splash, flooding the tiled floor. Seeing her chance while the underboss is distracted, Davina offers to analyze their security system vulnerabilities. She promises a full list of recommendations by the end of the day. Mr. Angelini pulls off his sunglasses, his gaze dropping all pretense. He tells her she is missing the point. It is pool day, no work allowed. Davina doesn't see what any of this has to do with her. Adam is already waiting at the door with a fresh stack of towels, congratulating her on surviving her first official pool day. She tries to ask if this is some kind of scheduled academy drill, but Adam just laughs. In this house, it happens entirely at random. When he hands her a bundle of clothes, she immediately tries to pass. She insists she isn't staying. She has a real security analysis to complete. Adam's smile fades into a deadpan look of pity. He explains the golden rule. Once pool day begins, absolutely no one is allowed to leave the pool room. She demands to know what kind of ridiculous rule that is, but Adam insists it's the entire point. He warns her that the underboss and Mikey do everything in there, but Davina cuts him off. She is not participating. Her escape is instantly derailed when an older staff member hands her a hot mocha pot, asking her to be a dear and carry the coffee inside. Panicking, Davina clutches the metal pot to her chest. She can't stay trapped in there all day. She tries to bolt, but Adam casually shoves her back, enforcing the underboss's strict orders with a hand to her face. When she begs for her laptop, Adam reminds her, no technology on pool day. She is entirely on her own. Resigned, she walks back inside only to be immediately greeted by Mikey, diving rings in hand, asking if she's ready to play. From the water, Mr. Angelini watches her hesitate, asking if she was actually planning to run. Mikey insists the day is sacred, leaving a flustered Davina to stammer about where she's even supposed to change. Mr. Angelini merely points to the adjacent bathroom. Minutes later, dressed in a swimsuit, Davina accepts her total defeat. Her investigation will have to wait. Stepping out of the changing room, Davina decides she will just have to focus on building a connection with Mikey instead. The boy is already splashing in the pool, proudly showing off the diving rings he has recovered. Taking her place on the diving board, she gets ready to join the game. She cuts cleanly through the water, diving deep. From the lounger, Mr. Angelini watches her descent closely. She surfaces with a ring in hand, claiming her first point as Mikey calls out for his father to watch them. Mikey immediately challenges her for the next round. They both plunge back under, racing for the bottom. Competition quickly devolves into high-spirited thievery, as Davina commandeers his favorite duck floaty. By the time they wrap up, Davina is exhausted. She sinks into a lounge chair next to her employer, who is reading up on how to raise children while doing wrong. She admits she is having fun, finding Mikey to be a complete riot. The easy atmosphere shifts. Mr. Angelini asks if she is disappointed, reminding her how eager she was to crack his security system earlier. He suggests a suspicious mind might think she has ulterior motives for getting so close to him. Panic sets in. She stammers that he promised her full access to the estate. With a slow, suggestive smirk, he asks if this isn't enough access for her. She stares at him in sheer disbelief. Did the terrifying Mafia underboss just make a pass at her? Davina can only stare. The cold, calculating Mafia underboss she expected is reading a book and chuckling to himself, leaving her completely off balance. Fragile peace is shattered the moment Adam appears. His serious expression says everything his voice doesn't. Even after promising his son a normal day by the pool, the reality of his work always catches up. 4 years old, and Mikey already recognizes the sudden shift in the air. Mr. Angelini hesitates, looking down at his son with a rare flicker of reluctance. But Mikey urges him to go. He understands that for his father, business always comes first. A quiet reminder of the life he chose, spoken by the boy he is trying to protect. With a final instruction to watch the boy, Mr. Angelini yields to the pressure. Something is unfolding. Davina can feel it in the sudden, heavy silence of the room. Whatever is waiting outside, Gabriel wants it kept far away from his son. He demands to know if Adam saw the license plate. But Adam was caught off guard, admitting he was in the kitchen while someone watched for an opening. A blood-stained pink teddy bear hangs from the spiked iron fence. Gabriel orders it stripped down and checked for explosives or wiretaps. It needs to vanish before the boy leaves the pool. Inside, the air is completely different. Davina tries to coax Mikey out of his boredom, but diving for rings has lost its charm. She proposes a new game instead. She will try to guess his favorite things. Every mistake means he gets to push her into the pool. She starts with his favorite animal. He confidently guesses a giraffe. She is immediately proven wrong, sent tumbling backward into the water. Sensing an easy victory, Mikey immediately challenges her to guess his favorite food. As his nanny, she really should know this one. He takes a wild stab at asparagus. A tiny finger taps her forehead. Wrong again. Down she goes a second time. But as she surfaces, the barrier between them has finally started to soften. The moment is cut short when Gabriel returns, demanding to borrow Davina. He instructs Mikey to get Adam if he wants to stay by the water. The playground rules are over. A sudden summons breaks the quiet mood of the pool. Davina climbs out of the water, facing Mr. Angelini's towering posture with tense readiness. He doesn't waste words, tossing a towel at her and ordering her to his office in 10 minutes. She can only glare at his retreating back, frustrated by his blunt authority. Beside her, Mikey deadpans that their driver never has to deal with getting his hair wet. The dry observation sparks an idea, and Davina offers a deal. She promises he can go swim with Adam on one condition. He must reveal his actual favorite food. She wants to make it for dinner, a simple gesture to bridge the gap between them. He smirks and claims it's gelato. Before she can retract the offer, Mikey bolts toward the door, cheering that his new nanny is letting him have ice cream for dinner. Upstairs in the study, the playful mood evaporates instantly as Bremerton calls Mr. Angelini over to his desk. There is fresh footage from the security feed, recorded just an hour ago. When Davina arrives, she is surprised to hear they even have cameras on the grounds. He claims they are strictly external, a detail she quietly doubts. Regardless of his honesty, this is her chance to study his system, and she asks if there has been a breach. The trackpad clicks and Davina gasps, horror washing over her face. A children's teddy bear has been left hanging from the perimeter fence like a corpse. It is an unmistakable warning. A direct, chilling threat aimed straight at Mikey. Davina closes her eyes, taking a slow breath to steady her racing heart. Mr. Angelini points out a cold comfort. They didn't breach the house itself, or the toy used for the threat would have belonged to Mikey. Leaning over his shoulder, she asks if the security feed captured the intruder's face. The footage reveals a masked figure in a tank top holding the bloodied teddy bear. She tells him to zoom in on the man's shoulder, but the resolution has reached its limit. She steps in closer, offering to bypass the hardware limits with her own software. They share a quiet, heavy moment of proximity in the dim study as she works. A few keystrokes later, the image sharpens. Mr. Angelini instantly recognizes the sun tattoo on the man's shoulder, identifying it as a mark of the Russian prison system. A dry, sardonic smirk crosses his face, impressed by her skill. Davina doesn't share his amusement, pointing out how reckless it is to anger the local bratva in less than a month. She reasons that the syndicate wouldn't make such a bold threat without a serious provocation. When she demands to know what he is really doing in Lyon, he deflects with a joke about making friends. But as he rises to his feet, the playful banter evaporates. He looks down at her, asking how a simple nanny knows so much about organized crime. A slip of the tongue, and the room goes cold. Davina realizes her mistake immediately. Mr. Angelini steps in close. He did his homework before hiring her. She was in his car an hour after applying, and he demands to know why. She tries to play it cool, claiming some things are just common knowledge. His hand slams down, cutting off her excuses. He forces her chin up, pointing out that elite nanny training doesn't cover syndicate dynamics. In his world, silence looks a lot like guilt. He grabs her by the collar. He wants the truth or she is out. He won't let a liar guard his son. She is cornered. She has to give him something to keep her position. The one thing she can't reveal is that she's here to solve her parents' murders. His grip tightens, starting a 5-second countdown. She could easily break his hold. Her training makes that clear. Getting fired means losing the only lead she has left. Before he reaches 3, she offers a half-truth. She could get in trouble. He tilts her head back, demanding to know who could possibly threaten her. The academy, the law, she tells him. Her entire career would be over. He reminds her that he holds all the cards here. He demands to know if she's working for a rival mafia family. She blinks, completely thrown off. He presses her on being a spy. She frantically claims she is just a freelancer. And of all things, he assumes she means a mercenary. Davina squeezes her eyes shut, desperately trying to swallow her amusement. She quickly scrambles to assemble a believable lie, claiming she's just a freelance hacker. She adds that she only does a little black hat work on the side when she needs some quick cash. He insists it is nothing heinous and that she would never actually hurt anyone. He challenges her instantly, asking if that's how she found Mikey when he was kidnapped. She counters that it was a fake kidnapping, and finding him wasn't hard if you know the tricks. She draws a firm line, promising she never gets involved with known mobs or syndicates. Spending enough time on the darknet teaches you a few things. When he asks if her headmistress knows, Davina begs him to keep her secret. Her heart races as she waits. Did she overdo the act? Mr. Angelini lets the silence stretch, a calculating look creeping into his eyes. He offers a trade, his silence in exchange for her finding someone for him. Relieved to have an out, she eagerly asks who he wants her to track down. He shows her a photo of the masked intruder who threatened his son. She accepts the job, professionally requesting a copy of the security feeds. He hands over a tablet and tells her to take the day to work, promising to watch Mikey himself. Walking away, Davina can't help but wonder why he believed her so easily. The task he demanded for his silence was something she wanted to do anyway. And yet, he handed an admitted hacker a tablet connected directly to his private network. That is a dangerous level of trust. Looking at the device, Davina immediately suspects a trap. This feels entirely too easy. If she were the one testing a suspected intruder, she would hand over the keys and watch exactly which doors they tried to unlock. A mirroring program is running in the background. Every keystroke she makes is being watched. Davina isn't about to disappoint her employer. If he wants to watch her, she will give him a show. Meanwhile, far from the estate, another side of the family is tracking the exact same digital footprint. Adam delivers the warning directly to the head of the family, Raphael Angelini. The Don is rarely bothered by sudden interruptions. He cuts through the driver's nervous rambling to get straight to the point. Adam explains that the mirroring software on their network has flagged some highly unusual activity. The Don realizes immediately. His nephew Gabriel has found their spyware. Realization doesn't bring anger, only a cold, sharp curiosity. Adam warns that if Gabriel knows what to look for, the entire operation could be exposed. Raphael simply shrugs it off. He sees no threat here. He knows his nephew too well. Gabriel won't dare to dismantle the connection. Because when it comes to the family hierarchy, Gabriel knows exactly where the line is drawn. He smiles, recalling how Gabriel already learned that lesson the hard way. But you can avoid the pain entirely by hitting subscribe right now before the next chapters drop and leave you completely in the dust. Smash that like button and get in the comments to tell me what we should do differently next time, because your feedback is what actually shapes how these videos get made. The story is moving fast, and you do not want to be the only one missing out when the next wild update hits.